The following podcast is brought to you by Cast Content Media.
Hey guys, it's Ron Worley, your most imperfect host of Sons of Ditches. People are liars, thieves, addicts, and assholes. Some people change, and a few make a difference. But everyone has a story. Hey everybody, Ron Worley with another episode of Sons of Ditches. As our intro says, today I have Mr. Paul Henderson, who is the Dean of Students at a private school in Richmond, Virginia, and also new author, which we're going to talk about today, of the book. The inspirational fiction self-help book is entitled Slave No More, Conquering the Master Within, and it focuses on overcoming personal failures and past life circumstance, which is perfect for us, right, guys? Because that's exactly what we do here at Sons of Ditches. Paul, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Ron.
Man, it's good to meet people all across the world. I was just on with somebody earlier today from Australia, and you might as well be in Australia because you are on the far East Coast.
Absolutely.
So you've been on a podcast tour, I'm sure, to get your book out. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Okay, yeah. So Slave No More, Conquering the Master Within. It's funny, when I initially had the idea, I would hear all of these stories, right, Ron? So I would hear a story of someone who had overcome some adverse trials. But then I would see someone with that dealt with the same set of circumstances, but rather than overcoming, they kept talking about the circumstance. They kept talking about what they were going through, and then I would see it time and time again. I'm like, okay, this person over here is overcoming, and then the other person dealing with the same circumstances, they're choosing to still focus on the circumstances. So this idea came to, hey, why don't I want to write? I want to write about this. So I initially thought that it would be just a general self-help book. Maybe just recording some stories, pulling a few key points from their stories. But what happened, and this is kind of getting to my story, was about four years ago. I was a teacher at a school. I just left a group nonprofit called Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I did that for 8 years, enjoyed it. A lot of sports chapels and all of that type of stuff. And I said, hey, I'm going into my educational background, which was teaching. So I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing and I'm going to have an impact in the classroom.
Yeah.
And it was a private alternative school, like, one of the schools where the kids who had some challenges.
Yeah, a little rough life there. Yeah.
Oh man, hey, that was a journey all in itself. So what happened was halfway through this year, they had 4 campuses, and they ran some funding challenges. So the campus that I was on actually shut down. It actually shut down. So I found myself looking for a job. At the time, my wife and I had 2 little boys. She was pregnant with our third, and I was like, what are we going to do? Lost our insurance, just lost everything. But we ended up having the baby. But here's the thing, Ron. During that time is when I started writing my book.
Okay.
About 4 years ago, out of work, 3 little babies at home. I would apply for jobs in the day, and at night I would write 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. I would write. And the cool thing is, that bring it back full circle, is rather than it just being a self-help book, it turned out to be inspirational fiction.
Sure.
So basically, I implemented a storyline, and then the people's stories who allowed me to use their stories, I implemented their stories into the storyline.
That's awesome.
It's I believe it's come out pretty good so far. I've had a few good reviews, and the goal is to definitely make an impact.
Yeah, for sure. Are you on Goodreads then, getting those reviews yet?
Yeah. So we're just starting that process. The official release date is January 4th, but the ebook was released just a couple of weeks ago. So it's available there. And then I have a few authors copies where different people have, they're starting to read and starting to get to the point where they're going to be making reviews. Absolutely.
Right on. That's good. Well, if you're on Goodreads, which most books before they go out, that's the big deal. So I'll jump on there. I do that Goodreads thing too. Yeah, I'll jump on there and read it, man. I'm excited to. It sounds like we both have a little bit in common with trying to help other people.
Right.
And really, I mean, you're not an expert in this, right? Like you're a teacher, but it's not like you've been out coaching people for your whole life, with life, life coaching and whatnot, right?
Right. Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I did chapels for a while with, middle school, high school, college, and actually a couple of, did a few NFL chapels as well.
Oh, wow.
Over the past few years. I'm a dean of students at a school, but I actually live by what I do for my blog, Fatherhood on the Fly. One thing I always say is that we're learning, we're growing, and we're getting better one day at a time.
Ah, nice. I love it.
Because I firmly believe that we're learning every day. And if I can just get a little bit better today, if you can get a little bit better today, we're going in the right direction.
That's true. So true. And so tell me a little bit about the school you work at. Are you out of the alternative school situation then, or is this also?
It's a school. It's a private Christian school in Richmond, Virginia. It's called Elijah House Academy. I believe we're in year 33. I believe that's the year that we're in. And
that's a little different than the alternative school, huh?
But what I like about it, I started July 1st. So this is my first year, and man, I tell you what, I'm loving it because every day I have an opportunity to help with the student formation at the school. Excellent. It's a private school, but it's an accessible school, if you will. We actually have a lot of kids from the inner city that are scholarshiped in order to be able to come to our school. We receive 90% of our students are funded in order to be able to come to school. So it works out really well to provide an accessible private education choice within the city of Richmond.
That's wonderful.
I love it. I mean, every day I look forward to going to work because I know that I'm having an impact.
Yeah, for sure. And not hardly anybody in America today can say what you just said. So that's huge. And we do appreciate you. Your teachers are heroes. And a lot of times, we just get no credit. And so here's all the credit, bro. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a joy. It's an absolute joy.
So tell me how you see all these people who are living in it. They're basically in their adversity nonstop. So you find out that basically, if you don't get out of it, you don't find your way out. You're just going to keep talking about it and it's going to eat you alive. Is that pretty much? Yeah. So what's the first step in getting away from your adversity?
That's a great question. One of the things that I really enjoyed in this interviewing, these dynamic individuals was finding common themes. And one common theme that I found, I believe there was a couple, an older couple there, they're in their 70s. There's another gentleman who's in his 70s. There's a guy that's in his mid to late 40s. And then a lady who's around, I think she's about mid 40s as well. So they all have these dynamic stories, okay? But the common thing, whether it's a racial type of story, like, racist, dealing with racism, or whether it's dealing with some type of physical ailment, whether it's dealing with like a sexual abuse, these are the types of stories that we cover there.
Okay.
The common thing that I saw through all of their stories was all of them had a vision to overcome. Each of them had a strong vision. The lady who dealt in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, which that's where I am. We were the capital of the Confederacy, so we dealt with a lot here. So what happened was back in the 1950s when they decided to integrate the schools. There was a county, Prince Edward County, Virginia. They said, "Hey, rather than integrating, what we're going to do is we're going to shut our school system down." So Imagine being 7 years old, the school system being shut down.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, you're 7 years old. What are you supposed to do? That's not your choice. You know, it's just something that you have to deal with. 5 years later, she's 12 years old. They say you're 12 years old. Okay, you're in the seventh grade. So you missed 5 years of formative education, and you're just dumped into the seventh grade.
Yeah.
So what happened was, as hard as it was for her, she fought through. She kept her vision in front of her, because what happens is one day she saw a lady dressed in all white, and she said, "You know what? I want to see what she does." Come to find out, this lady was a nurse. So that just gave her a vision to be a nurse. So that vision helped to keep her on track. Now, was it hard? Absolutely, it was hard. It was tough for her. But to see her, to hear her tell her story, man, my goodness, I was so inspired, because she said so many of her friends that were in the same situation, they didn't finish school.
Yeah, right.
But the fact that she had a vision, a strong vision, my goodness, man. I mean,
that's it.
I know her well. She's my son's babysitter.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I know her well. You know, she ended up being a nurse. She ended up being a nurse in Richmond, Virginia, and she had a 40-year career.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But it started with that strong vision. With that strong vision. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And you know, it's not lost on me that you need to visualize, and I spend time at night dreaming. I call it dream time, but it's you know, that moment when you're being creative and whatnot. But you have to have the end goal in your mind so that you have something to reach. Now I'm going to throw a bunch of bolts in here now, because the irony is not lost on me. The name of the book, the fact that you're African American, you know, so is this a racially, I don't want to say charged, but is there a lot of racial innuendos or stories involved?
No, thank you so much for asking that question. That the story that I just told is the only one that has a racial background to it. You know, her husband's story is actually in there. His doesn't have to do with that at all. And he's in his 70s as well. So there's one about physical ailments. And there's one about you know, a guy who basically the 3 generations before him, the father or the husband left the wife and just left a broken family, and he was on his way until he had a vision for a strong marriage. So that story ends up being in there, and now he has 3 children who have all married, you know, 15, 20 years. So being that he chose to break that cycle in his family, you know, he is now seeing three of his, you know, so it's stories like that. But that's the only one. Now I am a history major. I was a history major at Virginia.
Oh, no kidding.
University. And I did study a lot of stories about slavery, and one thing that would, and I guess some of the original intent behind the name is I would hear stories about, you know, the Emancipation, you know, Proclamation, and how different slaves were freed, but so many they didn't know where to go, so they just went back and worked for the same slave masters. You're free, but you're working for the same slave master, so why are you really free? So I guess in a way, making that parallel. You know, you have the opportunity to be free. You have, but in this instance, the masters in here and the masters in here.
Yes.
So learning how to break free from that mental master, that master that's in your heart, breaking free from that cage and finding the vision for your future.
Yeah, perfect. I love it, and I already knew the answer to it. I just wanted I want to get as many people reading your book as possible. So
absolutely.
And so we just wanted to clear that up. But so book comes out January 4th, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All right. Of 2022. Now, are you doing it? Are we back to doing any, like, what do you call that? In-person meetings or book signings or anything yet?
Yeah, we're working on it right now. We're working on it. You know, I've been to local bookstores, and they're saying we're not there yet, but they're you know, hopefully we're progressing. My publishing company, Morgan James Publishing, I'm really appreciative of them. You know, they're saying that it's looking like potentially sometime next year things will be more open. I think so right now it's really finding places that individually allow you. So I do have some author's copies. So if I'm able to get a speaking engagement, and I do have one in November, you know, where I'll be able to sell some books there.
That's awesome.
You know, we're also working on a book release
Yeah.
type of as well.
Yeah. Well, good for you, man. And so generally, I don't know everything about writing a book, but you know what? Usually, you get to go out on this book tour, and it's usually a lot easier to have not self-published, but to have a publisher. And I think it's wonderful that you have one. That's actually very lucky. I sent out probably 50, 55 letters to publishers and got zero response back. So good for you, man. How many publishers did you have to interview before you actually got somebody to offer you?
I spoke with 3, and I was offered by 3. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. I chose, but the 3 that I went with that I looked at were hybrid publishing companies. I was looking at companies where it was a good mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
And Morgan James is just that, where we call a hybrid publishing company, where I keep the rights to my book. Mm-hmm. But they do, I'm on their website. They help me to get into the to the bookstores through Ingram Sparks, and I forget it's not Ingram Sparks, but Ingram. I forget that.
Ingram Sparks is one of them, though. That's Ingram Sparks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Ingram is one of the one of the book distributors.
Yeah,
and it's been a really good relationship. David Hancock is the founder. He's a great guy. They have offices up in New York, and so they've had quite a few books on the bestsellers list. So hopefully I do my part and we work together so that that we can get there as well. But
absolutely,
if we look to affect as many lives as possible, it'll handle itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And bro, it's a marathon. That's what they kept telling me. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you're going to have this book for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it's your legacy, part of your legacy. Maybe you'll write many more, who knows, but your children will have it. You'll hand it down to them. And I'm sure your wife is super proud of you.
Yeah,
my wife still hasn't even read my book. So. I tried to read it to her.
That's kind of where we are. I've read it to mine to her. She I think what it was. She heard so much of it as I was writing it, because that was such a special time of not having a job, and we spent a lot of time together. During that time. I wish I was getting paid during that time. But,
yeah, right.
I was searching for a job, and at the same time, it was a blessing to be able to spend so much time with my wife and children.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're definitely a family man. We've gotten that from you here today, and
yes, sir.
So tell me, for all the young people out there, we have several young people that listen to our show. If they want, what do you say to them? Just getting out of high school. How do they make their choice? What's next for them? Is it, follow your passion, or give us a little advice on what you do right out of high school?
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So a strong vision is so key. A strong vision is so critical. So if you're not exactly sure of what you want to do, I would suggest to find somebody that's already where you would like to be. So because what happens is, if you find somebody that's living your ideal life, you're able to potentially ask questions, say, hey, how'd you get here?
Yeah.
And what can happen if you do that is that you could potentially, I think mistakes are a good thing, but anytime we can get around avoidable mistakes, if you will, I think that's a great thing. Yeah. I think it was, I heard John Maxwell say it. I don't know if he's the first person to say it or not. Said a wise man learns from someone else's mistakes. A smart man learns from his own mistakes, and a fool doesn't learn at all.
So that's pretty good.
I like being a smart man, learning from my own mistakes, but if I can get some wisdom from somebody who's already gone before me and they're where I would like to be, man, I think that's a great thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a mentor, everybody. And do you mentor people yourself by chance?
I'm in a position now. I get to do that every day. But even outside the school, one thing I share with the parents there, because I have two children in school. I have a third grader and a kindergartner. One thing I would share with them is I'm a father before I'm a dean of students. You know, I'm a father before my sons come first, and I really want to be sure that I'm pouring, you know, into them.
Yeah, and you know what? It's so important to do that, because especially these days, to teach a boy to become a man, you know, it's difficult. They're especially with social media and all that out there. So give me some advice as a parent. Now, my children are all grown. And I spent a lot of time trying to make them into men, and it turns out they just did a really good job on their own as well. So, but you know, what do you tell your kids? What is a man to you? What does that look like for you?
That's a great question, because I feel like, you know, you hear all these definitions. You hear about, you know, can you fix things? You know, I'm not the best with my hands. I've learned to be okay with admitting I'm not the best with tools. I'm not the best with cars. I'm not the best with fixing things around the house. That's not me. But I do realize what I'm good at. I realize where I am gifted. So if I'm able to sharpen those gifts, if I teach my sons, hey, let's figure out where you're good. Yeah. And let's be great. Let's be great there. I think as a man, to, you know, one thing I'm teaching my sons, a couple of things I'm teaching my sons, that it's okay to make mistakes.
Okay.
It is okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from the mistakes. Yeah. A couple of other things, something else that I teach my sons, and this is, and I'm not sure if this is something that I teach them, but more, perhaps it's more so a model for them. Sometimes we get on our children, and we do, because, you know, they drop the ball here and there, and it happens. Yeah. One thing that I've learned, and I try to remember, is that I drop the ball too. Yeah. So if my sons drop the ball, it's important for me to teach them how to pick it back up. Just as much as they may need discipline, whether that's like verbal discipline, you know, scolding or whatever, is so important to restore them, to build them back up, so they can say, you know what, I dropped the ball, but it's okay. As long as I learn and I figure out how to pick that thing up, I think we're going in the right direction. Now, these are general principles. I do try to teach my sons a little bit of yard work and all that type of stuff.
Sure. That's part of it.
We're not gonna go too far with that, because that's not my skill set.
I am not mechanically inclined at all, and I have a mechanic for a son, and so he's always schooling me now. I never taught him a damn thing, and that now he comes out and takes care of my cars and teaches. I mean, he makes fun of me, really. Right. It's hilarious, but I think that's good on you, man. And I think it's really hard in society today to teach a man to just go ahead and be a man. And you're right. Mistakes can't define us. That's not the rest of our life. And, hopefully our kids aren't stuck in that. That's huge. But thank you so much for being on. Now, tell me where we can do you have a website yet? Do you have, where do we get your book at?
Yeah, so Slave No More: Conquering the Master Within. So it's available as an ebook on, on all the all the online retailers, Kindle, Nook, iBooks, Google Play. Then you also then it'll be my website is paulanthonyhenderson.com. That's paulanthonyhenderson.com. And from there, you're able to pre-order the book from Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Amazon, all the major, all the major retailers. So it's available for pre-order right now. The official release date is January 4th. I cannot believe that's just about 2 months away.
It's going to get crazy, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man. The hardest thing is to actually sign someone's book. I don't know about you, but that is so awkward for me. I can't. I feel like, why the heck do you want my signature? It's super weird.
I've gotten some practice with my author's copies because the people I give them to are people within my personal network. Yeah. And so it's kind of getting me warmed up because I'm able to write like a little personal note because we have that relationship. Right.
Yeah, good for you, man. And practice your signature so that it's like the same.
Yep, absolutely.
That's
awesome.
Absolutely. Well, good for you, man. Paul, I sure appreciate you having you on and coming on our show. It's only a half-hour show, so I got to let you go. But please come on again. Maybe when the book's actually out, we'll have you on again, and we'll talk about how it's going.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ron. Wait, once again, I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. All right, everybody. We will see you next week in another episode of Sons of Ditches. See you later.
Thank you for tuning in to Sons of Ditches. For more information, go to my website, ronworley.com, and my YouTube channel, Sons of Ditches. Facebook, Ron L. Worley, or Instagram at Ronald L. Worley II.